I've never been a big Street Fighter fan. I was always more into Tekken and Soul Calibur. But Street Fighter 6 has this world tour mode with an open world and a custom character and tons of missions where you can fight most people out and about in the world. And that is crazy to me. I was very excited. I knew I had to try it. My favorite Mortal Kombat was Mortal Kombat Deception, where there was a whole ass open world and different realms you could go to and such. My favorite Tekken was Tekken 6, because you could run around and beat people up, and it was a mix of beat 'em up and a fighter. And I mainly enjoy Soul Calibur 6 for the character creation and customization. Street Fighter 6 has open worlds like that Mortal Kombat I talked about. And notice I said worlds because there are more than one. There's 2 open worlds to explore and tons of like little side areas around the world to explore. Street Fighter 6, like Tekken 6, has beat 'em up elements. Like the whole riding the subway is literally just a whole beat 'em up thing, and that's great. Plus there are tons of enemy encounters where you fight multiple dudes and you beat them up. And Street Fighter 6 not only lets you create a character, but it also gives you customization. Now, the customization is probably not as good as Soul Calibur's, but it's still there, and despite not being a Street Fighter guy, I think I am now. I can 100% say this is my new favorite fighting game. This game, it fucking rocks. I started to make myself in the character creator, but the blonde was looking too green, and so I just kind of decided to ditch being me and created some sort of amalgamation of Roman Reigns and Jonathan Van Ness is what this ended up being, before becoming a ninja and then ending up with my final form, a Fallout New Vegas cosplayer. Mainly because the stats are tied to outfits, so I wanted to look good and kick ass at the same time. There are also level ups and power ups and such. It really kind of is an RPG. You go around, you talk to people, you have level ups, you got power ups. What you got everything an RPG would have. This is an RPG. And that's probably why I fucking enjoy it so much. Another great thing about it is how much love it gives to not only Street Fighter games, but other older Capcom franchises. The first open world is literally Metro City, with the mayor still being Hagar like in Final Fight. And you even see Final Fight characters. Thrasher Damned is a big part of the story, and I like that instead of picking his English or his Japanese name, they just went with both. That's a smart move. Basically, in Final Fight, the English version, he was either named Thrasher or Damned, and then in the Japanese version, he was named the other one. So maybe it was like he was named Thrasher for English and Damned for Japan, I think. So they named him Thrasher Damned. I also saw a spot where girls were dressed like Poison and Roxy, indicating even more Final Fight love. I know Poison was in the last Street Fighter, so I'm actually hoping maybe she'll be in this particular Street Fighter. You had Final Fight, you had Fatal Fury, also here, and a little bit of King of Fighters as well. There's characters from that too, and a bunch of references from Capcom games that like weren't shown. Like some of the gifts you can give were Mega Man or Resident Evil, and on the ground they have this whole history of like fighting games that they've done, and you can look at, and it even has some of the lesser known ones like Darkstalkers and stuff, and that is so fucking cool. Capcom like really put a lot of love into this game, and not just into this game, but they said, hey, we still love our old stuff too. We still love our old franchises. We love what we have done. Here's what we have done. I love it so much. They also had like callbacks to old Street Fighter games. One of the mini games is you can destroy cars, and that's how you earn like points, and they threw a pixel filter over it. Fucking insane. These guys, wow. That does remind me, there are a variety of mini games you can play that act as part-time jobs to earn cash. How is getting basketballs thrown at you a part-time job? I don't know, but it pays goddamn well. There was a game called NBA Ballers Phenom where it had this open world and you run around and there's mini games and you earn cash and you become the best baller. This feels like a fighting version of that, and a much better version of that. I can't tell you how excited I am about that, man. I love this game. Combat is also pretty fantastic. They have classic combat for the more hardcore player, and modern combat that's a little more simple, but still great for new to the game players like me. I honestly kind of loved modern controls. There's still a ton of depth in combat fighting with them. I understand there's a little more depth when using classic, but the modern still has so much depth to it that it was one of the most fun fighting games I've ever played. I kind of preferred this to any other one I've actually played. Maybe because it kind of teaches you how to fully do it. Like, I feel like when I played Injustice, where I started in Injustice and where I ended in Injustice, yes, I was better, but I probably marginally. Where I started in Street Fighter and where I ended in Street Fighter, I felt like, man, did it really teach me how to play? Was it teaching me all this stuff? I felt leagues better where I ended than where I started, and it's so much more complicated than just a button mashing. You've got your basic moves, you've got your blocks, but there's also more than one way to block, and more than one way to use special moves, or to do combos. You got grabs, you have a drive meter, and that adds a lot. The drive meter is used to like break blocks, which you also have grabs to break blocks, and you have another special bar at the bottom, which also has various uses, and you can even summon one of the trainers to help you fight. Man, this fucking rocks. In DJ, he told me there's a rhythm to it, and he's absolutely fucking right. I'd slap on some tunes and I'd feel myself get into the rhythm where it was like I didn't even need to think, I could just anticipate and do, and it was really fucking cool. Also, DJ sings at you and it is goofy, and I love it. The whole game is goofy, and while that's normally not my style, here I really don't mind. It kind of embraces the silly, and by doing so, it comes off as more charming than it does like, oh, it's cringe, you know? A lot of things today, when they go for silly, they're too worried about how they look, and they end up coming off really cringe. But this is just pure silly. There was a couple times it was too goofy for me. It wasn't like, okay, one time I had to fight some refrigerators. That was definitely too goofy for me. But like I said, for the most part, I enjoyed the goofy, and I enjoyed myself there a lot. That's not to say it doesn't have seriousness, because it does. But it's a good mix that not only surprised me, but I absolutely loved it. I also like the art style here far more than in the previous Street Fighters. They went for a little bit more realism, which I like, but they also kept a cartoony look that Street Fighter had been known for. And they blended them well enough, I would say, to make people happy. At least most people. Story-wise, there's a kid named Bosch who's kinda your friend, but he's training for a tournament to kill an evil dude named JP, and over time you are too. It's not an exactly amazing story, but it's still a ton of fun. Plus, my favorite thing about the story is the characters. Not only are there a ton of interesting side characters, but every main character in the game you can also train with and become their student. And this is the coolest fucking thing ever. Not only do you gain their style, which means their moveset, but also you get to talk to them, know them, and sometimes even do side missions with them. Plus, this game gives you so many combinations of styles. I mainly used Luke's because that was the first one I got, and I had just gotten kind of good with it. But I incorporated various moves from E Honda, Juri, Guile, all of those guys into there too. And that's wildly cool. You can do that and learn the moves and stances of your trainers. As a submissive dude who's into feet, it didn't take me long to figure out who I was into, who I liked.
Such a lovely face.
Her name is either Juri or Yuri. Not only could I not figure out which one, but even the announcer jumps between pronunciations.
Juri, Judy!
Now, there are at least two things I really like about Juri, but also I love her style. In real life, Taekwondo is one of my least favorite martial arts, but in video games, it is always one of my favorites. Hao Rong is my go-to Tekken character, and his moveset is pretty similar to Juri's. They both do Taekwondo. And Juri is dominant and mean too, which also immediately makes me like her more. Finally, a game that gives me a love interest I'm actually fucking interested in. Hubba, hubba. All she does is beat me up and call me names, and then I give her gifts and tell her how great she is. So, yeah, we are basically a thing, you know? She also constantly is texting me nonsense, and that keeps me on my toes, I guess. Biggest complaint is you can't learn from her till the 12th chapter of the story, and there's only 15. But you would not believe how much content they jam-packed in here. And they do such a fantastic job drip-feeding you the game mechanics so it doesn't feel overwhelming, and doesn't feel like you are being forced to learn when you don't want to. The way they have set up the quests is a work of art, and every time I'm like, wow, I've pretty much seen all the content. Ha! What a fool I was. There was so much more just around the corner. I also really like some of the new characters, like Marissa, who is like a Roman gladiator, and her hair is literally shaped like a helmet, so that's kind of funny. The old characters are also still great. Zangief cracks me the fuck up.
Nothing is impossible. Not if you keep training. Squeeze every last muscle. Push! You can do it! Put your heart into it. Left! There! A bit more! Good things await! Come on! Yes! Here, the good things as promised. Yeah!
Here's what else was cool to me too. There were two spots where I lost in. The two last tournaments. For example, I thought I won the last tournament, but then there was one final boss left even after I won the tournament. It was JP, and I had no power-ups left. I really didn't have a lot left, and I apparently was just not a high enough level. He mopped the floor with me. And you know what was really cool? After losing, I put on my music, and I trained, and I trained, and I got stronger, and I got more power-ups, and I got better at the game, and I just trained my ass off, just like you fucking do, for a real fight. And then, I fucking came back, and I won that fight, and it felt so good knowing I prepared and won. I honestly over-prepared by a lot, and I whooped his ass kind of, but I cannot tell you how satisfying it was. I haven't fought in real life in years, but I could kind of feel that passion coming back. I could see me learning the telegraphs and the movements, figuring out the speed and the timing, when to dodge, when to block. I felt an excitement I had once felt from back when I did compete in various things, you know? It got me so hyped I even briefly tried using classic controls. And I hated that, so I immediately switched back. But it did feel fucking great to win that afterwards. Now, outside of World Tour mode, you got your online stuff. I didn't sign up for the online stuff, so I didn't try none of that. You have to sign up on a separate thing, and I fucking hate that. But even if you don't do the online and you play offline mode, you still need to be online to actually play, which will always be stupid to me. I hate that my game library is becoming vastly smaller if I have no internet. I don't like that. Especially for all these games that should be able to be played without an online connection. I do not understand. But the main fighting shit, that's still here. Each character has their own arcade story mode, just like the old game. All the stages are some of the best I've ever seen, and the intros into them will also hype you up, as the music is pretty fucking good, actually. Plus, years ago, I was talking about how the fighting game World Heroes on the SNES, and how that has special modes where you could have a seesaw health bar, or you could have various traps around the arena while you fight, and I said, I wish a present day game had that. Well, guess what, younger me? Street Fighter 6 has those things. I am a little bummed I can't play with my created character though, but it has the things I wanted. Plus, as another bonus, you can choose who you are fighting against. You can go into the versus mode without a second player and just choose who you're fighting against the CPU, which seems really basic, but you wouldn't believe how many fighting games don't have that and make you play through some arcade mode where you fight various random fighters, and that's fine, but sometimes I want to practice against a very specific fighter, and so I would like to be able to do that, you know? I will say one thing the game does not have going for it is its roster size. It is significantly smaller than Street Fighter V's. Now, more characters are coming out still. I know Alina is supposed to come out semi-soonish, so I'm excited for that. So maybe in the future the roster will be bigger, but right now it's smaller than previously, which I'm sure would really hurt the enjoyment of people who don't care about this world tour mode, who just want to fight some good old Street Fighter fights, and that's all they care about. Which I don't know how big of a percentage that would be, but I assume there's gotta be some, because that's all Street Fighter has been until presently. But I love it presently, I really do. This game fucking rules. It might be one of my favorite games I've ever played. I was eating this shit up. And if you don't like it, suck a dick, dumb shits. I only bought the base game, but I would actually spend money on the DLCs because I was really digging this. And I can for sure see myself coming back to this game as time goes on.